This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 490 for the week of March 6th, 2022. Welcome to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site,
Kanzenshuu.
We cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. Hey, we do podcasts here. Crickets.
Sometimes.
Crickets. I was looking, and apparently it was August, the last time we did a podcast episode. That feels like yesterday to me, but I know the rest of the internet does not live in the Mike sense of time and space. Here we are in March of the following calendar year with a new podcast episode. Let Kanzenshuu be nothing if not the most timely in the content here. We got a new movie coming out, the manga arc's coming to a close, and we're going to talk about DLC from, I don't know, like 9 months ago, because of course we are. This here episode on Kanzenshuu the podcast, apparently our 490th numbered episode. We're covering Trunks, the Warrior of Hope, the final DLC pack from, well, I assume the final DLC pack from Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, perhaps the worst named Dragon Ball video game in the history of the franchise. My name is Mike, and may see me around as Vegito EX. Voice we heard up front, my competition.
Hi, it's me, Randy. I don't know if I should plug the competition right up front or if that's a later thing.
No, you get it at the end of the show. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. I respect where I'm at.
Glad to have you here. We have another voice on the line. Actually, both y'all folks from last time we talked about this game. We got Randy. We also got Ken.
Yo, yeah, that first Kakarot podcast we did was, I think, my first appearance on here. And man, the nervous energy I had going into that, I don't have it this time. So let's have fun today.
Oh, good. I'm so excited. And why is that? Is it because you just got over, like you had your cherry popped and that's it? Or is it just hanging out over time since then? And I
mean, it's difficult being a fan of people for a long time. And then it's like imposter syndrome, Which I still have, it's been, 24 years running the site, and it never goes away. So, all right. Like I said, there's so much stuff going on in Dragon Ball right now. I'm not going to worry about any of it. We're just going to do this so I can get back to doing a podcast, because I don't remember how to do this, if that's not obviously clear to everyone who's listening right now. Thank you. Offer me up your strength and your support. I mean, what's the line? Genkyo wakate kure.
I think you got it.
Let's just go right into the topic, because if not, I will just keep stammering until someone stops me. So here we go. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, as I said, the best/worst title game in the history of the franchise. Not an open world game. I call it a Fopen world game. Am I the first person to ever coin that phrase? Because if not, I would like to cash some checks on that. I think that's great.
TM. We'll just say it right there.
I'm writing the entry on Urban Dictionary right now.
All right. Appreciate it. Action RPG telling the story from Raditz to Buu. It's genre listed in Japan is a, quote, Goku experience RPG, which I think is the better way to categorize it. Kakarot was basically a fighting game dressed up with some minor exploration and RPG item equipping and lots of fun dialogue. The game came out at the beginning of 2020, which feels like yesterday to me, but apparently it's been out for over 2 years now. The group that you're listening to right now, myself, Mike, Randy, and Ken, we reviewed the base game back on episode 481. We have apparently not even done 10 episodes since that time. You may want to check that out if you haven't already, or if you just want to recap. But this here episode, we're not talking about the full game. We are going to review the full Trunks DLC pack, which is the third of DLCs that they put out for it. This includes story-related content, as opposed to kind of the prior ones, but we'll talk about that a little bit. There actually can be and are story-related spoilers for what we're going to talk about in this game. You're like, oh, it's the Trunks TV special. I already know what happens in the Trunks TV special. Maybe there's some game stuff. No, if you don't know what you don't know, then there will be story spoilers in our review. And this will be full spoiler cast, as the cool kids say when they do podcasts. Just be aware of that going into this review. I'm trying to explain it best I can without spoiling it right here. Let's just say it was a pretty super pack of content here. Let's go into our short version of thoughts on the game, just to kind of like set the stage for people. Ken, I want to start with you because you platinumed it twice.
Yep. As far as one can platinum a game on Steam and then platinum it again on PlayStation. Yeah, I what can I say? I love it. I mean, I'm talking about when I finished the PS4 version of the game, my Goku was at level 281, I think. So I have no problem playing this game for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I loved it.
What was it specifically about the game that kind of caught you? Was it the writing, gameplay, the overall presentation?
I mean, the writing's great, but there's only so much of it. So, I mean, what kept me around was the gameplay. I love the way it controls. I love how fast-paced it is. Elements of, the Supersonic Warriors games in there, and just how I feel like the combat's constantly flowing, and at least the way I play it. But yeah, just so good.
Randy, what were your initial thoughts on the original base game?
I'm trying to remember back to that episode that we did, and I feel like I wasn't as I was more harder on it. But coming back to playing this Trunks stuff, I was like, man, what was I really upset about? This game is actually really fun and good, and like, I don't know, maybe it was our conversation before and Ken's infectious energy that made me want to look at it from a different point of view. But I mean, it's different from most of the Dragon Ball games we've gotten recently, so maybe it's the fact that it's fresh and it's a new experience versus like Xenoverse that made it more fun. But I don't know, it's a good way to reinterpret and re-enjoy the original story. So writing, I think also having the Kikuchi score there really upped the game. So
I had forgotten about that actually when I went back into this. Like, oh shit! Do you think, and maybe we'll get to this? I'm sure we'll get to this. It also being kind of like the Trunks DLC, kind of like this condensed, like singular package experience, kind of like cuts down on some fluff and makes it a little more enjoyable.
I would say so, because you don't have complete freedom to do everything that the base game had.
Yeah.
At least I didn't feel compelled that I had to also like fill out my community boards the whole time or do anything else like that.
Spoilers, I didn't touch any of that this time.
Well, so that's one thing that was great, is that all of the progress you had from the base game with the community board carried over into this one. So I went into it basically fully powered Trunks and Gohan from the start.
As for me, Kakarot is a game that I like more in theory and in retrospect than when I actually play it. Especially right now, I'm coming into this, I'm like, yeah, I really love this. And while actively playing it, I think back to all the times I was just like screaming at the game, like, did I really love it? Tough call. But I think it does a lot right. It doesn't do a lot particularly novel, but I think it's just like a solid like B effort for what it is. So, all right. So that's a recap of our original feelings on the game. We mentioned this is the third DLC pack for the game, following effectively Battle of Gods and then Resurrection F. And this one's different from those. And this is something, Ken, I'm hoping you can speak a little more to, because I know you were at least making notes on characters from the Resurrection F stuff. But the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F stuff is more just like a boss gauntlet and level up kind of thing.
Yeah. The Beerus stuff especially was just fight Whis a bunch of times. And then once you're at a high enough level, you can fight Beerus. They're almost intended for people playing the game the first time. Yeah. Because you can access the Beerus stuff right from the beginning if you bought Kakarot with the DLC right from the start. And then
yes, so I did actually start playing it. And I thought it was super weird because I had played through the game to completion. And so then as you're unlocking things, it's like, okay, you've unlocked Super Saiyan. And Goku's like, actually, I already have this. So that led me to think like, oh shit, does just like unlock stuff early for you to kind of like easy mode on top of easy mode the game.
Basically, yeah. So it's just a lot of that gameplay that I like in the Beerus stuff. But I think the Frieza DLC is where the writing for this game really starts to shine in a lot of the sub-quests. The stuff with, I don't remember his Japanese name, but Pomelo from Planet Temp, he's gathering the Dragon Balls for Frieza, and then you have the whole thing with the Ultra Ginyu Force, and then Geese breaks off to make his own squad. That's himself and Kiwi and Zarbon and Dodoria. It's just lots of really cute writing, which is what I thought was always the strongest point of the base game.
Nice. Okay. Maybe I might have to check that one out. The Battle of Gods thing was not doing it. I started it right after I finished Trunks. It's like, I got the game installed again. I might as well poke around and stuff. I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm not going to do this one. So, all right, maybe I'll do that.
There was also like those large battles that you would do in Resurrection F against like 100+ opponents or whatever, which, I mean, it was kind of a neat twist on how the combat already worked, but I kind of found it pretty fun.
All right.
Yeah, if you like the gameplay, it's good.
The Trunks pack, this is a roughly 10 to 12 hour game. I don't know how long you all played. Ken, of course, went balls to the wall on everything here. But for me, it was like 11.
I think I was only like 7 or 8. And I really went hard leveling Trunks. He was at level 164 when I finished.
I wonder what the hell I was doing then. Well, anyway,
I don't know.
It's basically a totally separate game from the main game. Like you start is Trunks at level 1 when you start? I feel like
no, I think it was like 25 or something.
Oh, did he have something? Okay, I mean, it didn't feel like you were end game. It felt appropriate for where he was because he's got to level and train up and be ready to fight 17 and 18. You can just level him up all the way. It's so separate that it's. Well, apparently, like Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, you have to go to the separate add-on menu, and that's where you access it. I thought it was from the main title screen that you could get to it, but no, you have to actually go into an in-progress or completed save file, and then access the add-ons menu, and that's where the DLC packs were. So I wasn't entirely sure where to go to get to it, and I just thought that would be helpful maybe for someone to know. Maybe another helpful piece of information, it is included as part of the Season Pass. If you buy that, the full expansion gets you Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and Trunks. And that's been regularly going on sale. I think I bought it, the pass, for $15-ish myself at some points. Regularly, it's either 25 or 30, something like that. You could just buy this one and just play it. And it's basically its own self-contained game. We're going to get into the game, but we are talking about, again, this is full spoilers on everything. So we're talking about the game story as it relates to all of the media it's going to be pulling from. And kind of where I want to start on that is, as we talked about with the original game, Kakarot really felt like, and the developers at CyberConnect really, like they were drawing from an expanded level of canonicity. Like we would get references to things that I've only ever read from Julian translating from a magazine or the back of a book or something, and have that kind of thing referenced in a video game felt really fresh and really sincere and authentic. And as we're going to talk about with this DLC pack, it's kind of more of the same. That said, I think it's curious still at this point in 2022. Obviously, the pack came out last year. The accepted canonicity of Trunks' events always seem to follow the TV special as opposed to the manga. And I've certainly had many conversations on this podcast and across the internet about what is the canon for the franchise. And I think what a lot of people bring to the table without realizing that they're saying this is the one I like the most is the one that's canon. And it's funny how the Trunks TV special seems to be that accepted version for everyone, including the rights holders, despite the fact that there is a manga version that is an original that is different from here. It's like the Trunks TV special is the base.
This is where I break from tradition, because I rewatched the Trunks special and the episode where he finishes things up after the Cell arc. I watched those last night.
Yeah.
I have not, still don't. I do not like the Trunks special. There's something about it that feels very off to me. It's very like mournful and dreary and just intentionally not with the tone of the series. I prefer the manga version. Now, having said that, Trunks kneeling over Gohan's dead body and then transforming into Super Saiyan is such an iconic moment that I have to personally accept that is the version of events.
I'm surprised. I didn't know there was anybody that would prefer the manga. Not that I'm saying you're wrong, obviously, but just, yeah, I mean, I think comes down to what do you like more? That's canon to me. I don't want to turn this into a debate about the Trunks story, but I'm like, that's kind of my jam. I definitely align with the TV specials events.
I mean, it makes for an objectively more dramatic moment when he's standing over a dead body, and like that's the trigger for it, as opposed to, oh, he's already got it. I guess let's tell the rest of the story. Again, I just think it's a curious point that, especially in a game whose, I wouldn't say entire point, but like a significant portion of its identity is the like expanded canonicity that it's a TV special. That's the base. So let's talk about the game a little bit. The first half-ish is roughly the same as the TV special. We're, of course, having some extra things because it's a game, so you have quests and other stuff to do. Let's sit in this portion of the game for a little bit. And we're, of course, going to talk about some gameplay things and game design things, but let's stick with story for a little bit. What I want to focus on is we kind of all know the story of the Trunks TV special. Theoretically, if you're listening to episode 490 of Kanzenshuu, you've seen the Trunks TV special. What I love about what they've done here is what I love about what they did in the base game as well. It's kind of like the little moments where you get an extra line of dialogue or another scene. And there were kind of three things that stuck out at me. The first one was Trunks and Gohan sitting by the fire. And hearing Trunks, or having Trunks hear Gohan talk about his own training to fight Nappa and Vegeta, like, oh, right, that is that Gohan. Those events did happen to this character. And to hear about it from this, like, alternate future perspective was really neat. And I loved how Gohan then went to compare that to, oh, it's kind of like how my dad had to train to fight Piccolo. It's like these are the conversations that would have happened were it not limited to, you know, a 45-minute TV special. They would be sitting around having these moments, and having the game expand on it a little bit, again, felt really authentic to me.
In that scene that you're talking about, there's a moment where Gohan vocalizes to Trunks. He tells Trunks, "You are the hope," which is something that he just has in inner monologue in the special, and I'm not even sure if it's in the manga, but he tells Trunks, "You are the hope, not me, it's you."
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that later, but that's something that echoes throughout this DLC that really ties everything together thematically, and I really loved that moment.
Yeah, I agree, because it's always like, well, Gohan, you're also half Saiyan, half Earthling, so what's more special about Trunks than you? And I think, yeah, I agree. I think they pull it off in that respect. Randy, I have other moments, but is there anything you want to touch on here?
It's not that moment for the campfire, which, like you said, is pretty excellent. But I was looking through my screenshots from when I was playing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the start of the conversation, but there was just one moment where they're talking about Gohan wearing the gi that he wears. And he says that he does it to kind of like feel more like embodying the strength that his father had. And I was like, this is very cool of expanding on that and getting us more into like what Gohan felt and what he thought, despite like this being the same Gohan we've known since he was a kid, but having gone through everything he's gone through, like what kind of person is he now? And yeah, it's a lot of these little moments in the writing that kind of does a job in service to the story and expanding on that, especially for fans who've digested this so many different ways and thought about, you know, what is, if I could get more of this, what would it be like? And it really kind of does a good job there. And
it's not just that scene with Gohan. It's the moments where you're playing as Trunks and you're flying around and you run into the Turtle Hermit and you run into Chi-Chi. Yeah. And there's this fantastic part, you know, for as much as we criticize the Turtle Hermit, and perhaps rightfully so, there's an amazing part in this game where he confronts 17 and 18 and has a nice like mentor moment with Trunks that you never get any of that kind of stuff in the original series.
That was a pain point for me that maybe I'll talk about at some point, but gameplay related. But I agree on that. And speaking of gameplay, it's going to be a fetch quest kind of game. Like you're going to need to go get 5 fish or trinkets or whatever. But I think they did a good job tying it into the actual narrative. Like when the time machine is not quite ready, but almost ready, that's a perfect time for the game to do something with the narrative. And it makes sense that like, oh, Trunks, can you go get me these parts I need for the time machine and tie that into a side quest? Like that actually makes sense. And I don't feel ridiculous about going to get the 5 trinkets because like, yeah, she would need that. That makes sense.
Yeah, she doesn't have access to, you know, her distributors anymore. They've all been, you know, destroyed. So, right. You know, Trunks is there. He could certainly help out in procuring those things. It makes sense.
There are those couple points in the story, or at least in the TV special, where like he comes back or he gets beat up and like some days go by and, you know, he's recovered, but the time machine's not ready. Like these are just, oh, it's perfect for a game to do something here.
Some of the those fetch quests, you know, having played the base game, I knew probably to expect some of this. So I made sure that I was collecting things. I went along. I wasn't selling anything to the few stores that are still open in the game. And So when it came time for that one fetch quest,
did you already
I was
have?
just like, well, I have most of this, so it was only like maybe that's why I was only spent 7 hours in the game.
Sure. There was one I think I had to go over and like mine off of those tiny little beach islands. I think there's something I had to go get over there. Maybe I think that was this mission, stuff for the time machine, like some kind of special ore, but I was able to get it right away. I found it hard to find some things sometimes. I don't remember if I felt this way in the base game. There's definitely something like there's one little item down at the bottom of a tree in some area, and I never saw it. And I kept going into scanner mode and like, I'm not finding anything here. I don't know what they could have done differently for stuff like that, but like you got to find just something on the ground somewhere and it's over there. You get a little circle on your map and I'm like, I've run circles through this circle and I can't find that item, but it's here somewhere. I know it is.
Yeah, I think you were doing everything right. You're going around in that circle and you're going into like sensing or scanning mode that usually helps it out. And I had to do that a couple of times. I also didn't have to run around and collect everything because I had already been doing that. But yeah, there's certainly a couple of times where I just had to do that too.
One other story element I want to touch on, and it's the end of this part of the game. And that's after defeating 17 and 18. It's a real nice touch to have Trunks fly around talking to Chi-Chi and the Turtle Hermit to tell them that it's over. Like, yeah, that's a thing he would have had to go do. Like, someone needs to learn that 17 and 18 have been defeated and to have Trunks be the one to do it. And there's a line that Chi-Chi delivers to Trunks. I know we're spoiling things, but I don't actually want to spoil what that line is and the way she delivers that line to Trunks. But it kind of like melted my heart. Man, yeah, they nailed it. Like they nailed the emotion and the gravity of everything in that one little scene.
Oh yeah, I think you also had to like go and talk to her. This is like after the time skip after Gohan had passed, and it's like, oh, I should go check in on them.
Yeah. And you're hesitant
they're doing
to.
Okay. Yeah, like even me as a player, I'm like, oh, I'm really scared.
Do I really want to do this?
Go.
Yeah,
that's gonna be rough. Oh man.
Yeah. They handled those moments just perfectly.
The story thing I want to touch on is actually tied to the gameplay.
Okay.
And that's the whole part where you're as Gohan and Trunks, and you're having to avoid the androids in the city.
Some of that stuff was rough. Like, I could not figure out for the life of me how to avoid those, like, not spy robots, but whatever those sensor things were. Randy, you told me how to do it. I'm like, I'm doing that. It's just not working.
I think I alerted them once, but otherwise I was pretty good at taking out the central ones and clearing the space. So initially I thought, oh, this is such a cool idea. Like we're low level. We're not going to be able to handle fighting them and having these things that are going to alert them like, ooh, this is going to be really tense. And then I jumped into it. And at least for me, I was like, okay, well, like I cleared that out pretty easily. Maybe it'll get harder. And it didn't, but
if they show up, is this where it gives you some like cool conditions to try and do?
Yeah, I think it's like lower their health to like a certain percentage, and then you can like start to get away.
Yeah.
But they can be kind of tough fights. It's always good to make sure you've got health items equipped, which I was never super good at remembering to do.
But also, these particular fights, like they're actually, it's not a game over situation if you lose. It's just like, oh, they woke up in the hospital or back at home and you go back out again. And I feel like that broke me for some other fights. So I'm like, all right, well, if I lose this, whatever, apparently they go, oh, no, that's game over. And I have not saved in an hour. Oh, okay.
I play a lot of games with stealth mechanics, right? Like Metal Gear or Hitman.
I'm so bad at them. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, so when a game that I'm playing has what I judge to not be good stealth mechanics, it's a major detractor. So I avoided anything to do with these stealth robots or whatever they were, sensor robots, as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I think I really only had to deal with them the one time. They're actually, you can just avoid the areas that they're in.
You can. Yeah. Just fly around it. I kind of want to step back a little bit because I have not played since the game came out and we did the base game review. So it was a little tough for me to get back into the swing of things. Like the aforementioned equipping items, health items. Like I forgot that was the thing you do because part of the game's artificial difficulty is just enemies have lots of health and super armor. And no matter what you do, you will just have to use healing items on yourself. Oh, I forgot that's what this game was. Luckily, the game does seem to dish out some of those like rare items to you pretty early and frequently that you can just sell for. Like I just bought 99 of whatever like health item I needed. But this kind of tied into one of the story bits we were talking about earlier where the turtle hermit confronts 18 and you kind of like jump in on it. I'm like, oh, I thought this was just like a little side story. I didn't know I would be fighting. I have no items. I am underleveled. This is a nightmare. But then I ended up just spamming the Masenko and that worked. I also forgot that you could charge your key in the game. So like it was rough, man, getting back into this game and remembering how it all worked. It did not come back to me like some of the other prior games have done.
The biggest thing for me was relearning how to fly.
Oh, I still didn't figure it out by the dozen hours. You start running out of breath underwater, and even though it doesn't play it, you start hearing the Sonic music in your head. And there's something about the controls. I don't know if it's just having played so many Dragon Ball games and they're all just slightly differently controlled that I never quite picked it back up again. Anything else? I'm kind of like putting a line in the sand here because from here on out, we're going to talk a little bit more spoiler-y stuff that you might not know about in this game. So is there anything from this part that anyone wants to bring up before we get on to some more story stuff?
Yeah, just kind of overall, there are a lot of minor touches in this game that necessarily I wouldn't expect from something that's just like a really glorified tie-in.
Yeah.
Like West City, as not to spoil anything, but as you go through the story, West City changes. And it goes from destroyed to there being cranes rebuilding the city, and then you see eventually you see a rebuilt version of it, and it's just little things like that. And Gingertown being rebuilt, it's a very hope with 2 exclamation marks.
And who wrote that?
Trunks, and it even says. Here's the hope that I wrote. Hope for Gohan. Hope for my mom. Yeah.
I think there was one thing, and I'm trying to remember because it's been a few weeks, but a thing that stuck in my brain about the story in this first part is, doesn't Bulma bring up that how time travel works ahead of time of like, you're not going to be able to affect anything that happens back then, but at least you'll make a better world for them.
Right.
Which I felt detracted from Trunks learning that after going back, giving Goku the heart medicine and coming back, like nothing has changed, but I'm still going to go back there because they deserve to be helped. Like, it makes it more of him being selfless, and because he thought he would get something out of it, but he didn't, but he's going to go for it anyway. At least, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that she does bring up, like, that's how it's going to work.
She definitely explains it at some point. I don't remember myself yet if it was at that point or later for stuff we're about to talk about, but yeah, I see where you're coming from there.
I could just continue to gush over the character writing in this game all day long. When I was looking back through some of my screenshots to refresh myself.
Yeah, it seems like we all took screenshots along the way.
Yeah, and there's the conversation. In the series when Trunks comes back and he says he tells Bulma that he met. He spent time with his dad and everything, right. and he's like, oh, he's actually he's not so bad, and he got angry when I died, and Bulma's like, oh, I'm surprised. But then it cuts to this part where you fight Vegeta in the Room of Spirit and Time, and they have this great conversation that, I don't know, it felt like they were imposing the super version of Vegeta onto the Cell Arc Vegeta, but I just love that moment of Vegeta being like, hey, you're my son, you should have this pride and train, and I know you'll go back and you'll take care of those androids, you can do this. And it's just like such an inspiring moment from that, perhaps unearned maybe for that version of Vegeta, but stuff like that really makes my hair stand on end.
All right, you said a word there. You've invoked it. We are crossing the line in the sand. So this DLC pack covers, the Trunks TV special, specifically, as opposed to the manga chapter. As we talked about, it also covers DBZ episode 194, which corresponds to chapters 419 and 420, blaze them up. Then we get credits. And then we go into Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 16. And then we get credits again. There's so much to say about this here. I think the first most important thing is, Randy, you didn't realize, that you weren't done with the game.
Yeah, that's very true. I think I had put something in the Discord chat of like, well, got credits. And Ken had asked, which credits? What happened? I'm like, oh no. To be fair, like I knew I had seen like a video of stuff that happens later on Twitter, like after the DLC dropped, and I was like, oh cool, they're doing that stuff, and then it completely wiped from my brain.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, so I think this is not fairly, but extremely notable for being the first Dragon Ball game to go all in on super manga specific content like this. We've had, and there was actually a thread in a forum about this, we've had some other minor items like Heroes in particular. Vegeta's Gamma Burst Flash is in Heroes, and that's an attack that Toyotaro came up with himself for the manga. The Gods of Destruction attacks from the exhibition in the manga are in Heroes as well, but this is like the big one and the first big one. Things like Super Saiyan God Vegeta, that didn't happen in a game until after the Broly movie came out. And obviously that's an animated adaptation. So to have a game go whole hog and like, it's not just referencing it, like it is that chapter and it expands upon it. It was super fucking cool. I don't remember where I wrote this in the notes. Oh, I have it down here below. I've been doing this a really long time. Like I've been a Dragon Ball fan since 96. And as soon as I got into the series, I played like a bunch of the old games, and I played all the contemporary games. I have played every single Dragon Ball video game. I have played Raditz Debut so many fucking times that my head wants to explode. And so I'm really a proponent for, I don't want to just play the series. I want to do something new. And so Heroes is novel and interesting in that way. Xenoverse, even when it recaps the series, at least it goes off in its own direction. So I feel like a hypocrite saying, it was amazing playing that manga chapter because it hasn't been done before. So it was kind of like the excitement of seeing them go for it in that respect, but also the excitement of like, oh shit, like they're voicing it, and it like it's a fully realized version of that story that I already liked from the manga. Just wild to me. I loved it so much.
Yeah, and it wasn't just tacked on, because they did like, pre-rendered cutscenes for the whole thing that was part of the meat of the whole thing. It wasn't just an afterthought. So that was very impressive that, they did go whole hog.
It didn't actually dawn on me that we were in direct Toyotaro territory, because like the PSP game had kind of done this kind of a story before. Mm-hmm. So I just chalked it up to that. Like, oh, cool. We're going to see what happens. We'll go through a series of fights. But then there's the pose that Trunks does when he's wearing the Kaioshin outfit. And he strikes a certain pose that's direct out of a panel from the manga. And then I was like, oh, the madmen actually did it.
And it's like a full expansion on that. I mean, the chapter is, I forget how many pages, because chapter 16 was still early on, so I forget where in the like page count expansion that was. But like it's all of that content and fully realized, like conversations surrounding everything, like connective tissue between the events in that chapter. It's the full goddamn thing, and it felt great. Kind of sucks to not have Joji Yanami doing Babidi. I forget who's playing him now. I want to say it's Bin Shimada that does Babidi now, and not my favorite performance. Oh, and also Kaioshin is the second Kaioshin. I forget who his voice is, but whenever Yuji Mitsuya is not available, they have like a backup Kaioshin who comes in and does them. He did GT. He didn't do Kai. Mitsuya came back for Kai, but this was the second Kaioshin. But he's close enough, and I've heard him enough over the years. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like the other Kaioshin. But yeah, Gisao just fucking nails it throughout this entire thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just so cool to do this whole thing that was a chapter in the manga, or like they showed like a scene or two in the TV anime of Super.
Yeah.
That, we had talked about, like, if this thing was the one you liked the most of, that's canon to you. And I feel like after this, like, well, what's the story for that? Okay, well, you want to experience this DLC pack from this one game that came out a couple
right.
ago?
This is the canonical version.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just all encompassing and it's so good, and it just dives into everything about it.
Yeah, and it's such a direct adaptation that I was really expecting to see Goku Black at the very end.
I was too. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity. Like, you just I don't know, panning back, and it kind of like crossfades into like a dark destroyed timeline, and you just hear like a laugh or something. I don't know.
This is Trunks the Warrior of Hope. You don't want to end on something dark and dreary like that, where Bulma's going to end up dead in 5 minutes. No, don't do that. Don't remind me.
I've joked multiple times on Twitter about the narration bit in the manga, where it's like, so long as Trunks was around, the future would be okay, and it's and how that's not the case. But right. I liked, the theme of this was hope, and I think to include Goku Black would have cheapened it significantly. So while it would have been cool to see him, I am glad that in the end he was not there.
Sure, narratively and emotionally it makes sense, but if we're gonna keep fanboying out on stuff, it would have been nice to see. Speaking of, I really would have appreciated Awikaze no Hope, Blue Wind of Hope playing over credits or something. We didn't get it, and I feel like you could have put in a song there.
Time to go do an edit in Premiere. Here I go.
I'm gonna put in Goku Black too. Like someone open up Blender and get me some CG models into this game. You can rip it out of Xenoverse or Fighters or something, right? Is that how that works?
For sure. Yeah.
I feel like this whole part of the game was just gushing because it was so new and fun to experience like this for the first time. But was there anything about this part of the game that stuck out to you in any other way, like gameplay wise or narrative wise?
I just like spending time with Trunks like this. For me, Trunks is a character that I would always be like, I prefer Kid Trunks. This game, in a weird way, gave me a whole new appreciation for future Trunks. And it's down to him getting to be like in these weird gag situations. Like, I'm sure we all want to talk about the Frieza Force and how they have unlocked the ultimate power of panties.
Yes.
And it's just Trunks getting to be in these bizarre situations that really endeared him to me.
And that's what I love about the opening of movie 7, actually, is just him being with all these other perverts and just being completely out of his element. Like, it's that kind of Trunks energy.
Oh yeah, it super is. It's nice for that, and then also just the different situation that Trunks is in versus standard Dragon Ball, where like, he doesn't have the power of his friends to help out with anything. Like, it's just him. And, it is like more of a dark and dreary story because he is all alone and like everyone he cares about is gone. But like, I don't know, that just gives it a really nice different flavor, but also still retaining that Dragon Ball-ness of it all.
Speaking of Trunks being like the main source of power here, I know they did this at some point in the base game. I can't remember what fight it is, but when you unlock Super Saiyan 2, and I think you're fighting Jabra, and I'm pretty sure it gives you super armor, and it just starts doing like slowdowns on some of the attacks. You feel so incredibly powerful. It's amazing.
I think it happens a couple times in the base game.
Yeah, it does. It's a good way of giving you that feeling you have when you're watching the series of, oh yeah, they just unlocked a new power up. They're unstoppable. Yeah. I'm the one that's unstoppable.
Exactly. And they take that away like immediately after that fight. But that moment, I felt incredible. You kind of hinted at this already, but the post game has its own post game, and I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it went on for a while, and it was just like more of the same great, clever Kakarot writing, which is not a phrase that I thought anyone would say. Puar and the Legend of Yamcha was just like a great way to kick it off for me. And I don't know why Puar is so, I don't know. I mean, that's what their relationship was. Yamcha was just the best. And I have to tell everyone how great Yamcha was. And to have Trunks thrust into this position, it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was his disciple. I can fly around. Oh shit. All right. Let me fight these robots. Okay. Like the situations they put you into where it's just, okay, now just fight 5 enemies. It felt earned and it felt natural, just like the collect trinkets for the time machine. Like I bought it.
The way you're saying about fight these 5 enemies, it's there's a sub story before then where you are fighting basically alongside Chi-Chi.
Yes,
she's taking down one of these robots and you take down the other 3 or however that was. But yeah, it's these kind of boring missions, boring objectives wrapped in just a great story package.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that other than, it's just fun to see these characters going through more after all of this, slightly touching back on it, those Chi-Chi moments were kind of the highlight for me for any of those sorts of missions, because it's like, oh, good, you still can kick butt. Not that is, the value of you as a character, but it's just nice to see that you haven't given it up.
This is like the best written Chi-Chi in any Dragon Ball media, too. I'm kind of just realizing this. Like, she's more than her emotions, but her emotions also define her. Like, I don't know how to even describe it, but Chi-Chi's awesome in this DLC.
Yeah, and there's this great like motherly energy that she still has towards Trunks. Mm-hmm. That's not kind of not in an overbearing way. She's a different Chi-Chi, an older Chi-Chi.
Right.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this game.
This is canon Chi-Chi. Is Kakarot.
Yes, of course. I don't want to say what every post-game thing is, but I just want to say the phrase "guy who wanted to throw himself off a cliff because 18 was gone." Like, that kind of tells you where they're going for.
The way that mission was written, I was so fully expecting him to say something about wanting 18 to step on him.
Right.
Just go full on that energy. And I thought it was a good way to handle that whole climax thing, where it's like, oh, well, I'll just, go talk Oolong into doing this. Oh, that's right. And they brought back the whole like candy thing that he eats, and like, if he doesn't listen, say the word to get him to have to.
And his transformations aren't perfect. Oh, it's just so good.
There was so many good references to that it tied everything together. I'm like, man, they really cared here. I love this.
Yeah. We've gushed a lot. I do want to bring up a couple things. I mentioned a couple already. Like, not my favorite with this game. For all the great moments that the game has, I also feel like it undercuts itself at several moments. And one is the aforementioned Super Saiyan transformation for Trunks, where he cries, he screams, and then like right after he screams, here's Shenlong, here's your score, and here's the chapter's over. Like, way to completely destroy the moment there, guys.
For whatever reason, I didn't recall that being an issue for me, but it might have been.
I laughed out loud.
Too soon.
I think because my score was also like ASS status, like I'm 12 years old. How about you guys? Anything that was kind of like a sore point for you?
For me, it was just those sensor robots. That was really the worst part of the game to me.
I felt like I should have been doing more of trading in robot parts to that one guy.
I didn't do any of that stuff. Yeah, maybe let's go in that direction. Like, Ken, you said community board stuff. I didn't do anything with that here. I didn't do any whatever Bulma was making for Trunks. Like, I can fly. I don't care about my vehicle. I didn't do anything with that.
Oh, yeah, the vehicle stuff.
Like, there's more stuff to do. I just didn't see the narrative need to do so.
When that guy with the robot parts, I didn't even know where he was. So I just said, well, I'm good. If it comes to the point where I have to grind out some robot parts, then I will. And that point never arrived. So I just left him alone.
First time I went back to him, because I'm like, oh, I've got parts, was like after some sort of story progression had happened, and he was no longer like standing outside of that house, because I think I'd even like marked it on my map, and I'm like, where the heck is this guy? Then I think I progressed the story more, came back, and there he was. I was just confused for that. But yeah, I don't think he had like a lot of great rewards or anything, which is why I kind of like dropped off on it, because I'm like, well, I'm not feeling rewarded for my time doing this, so why would I waste it doing it? Same thing for like the vehicle stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, they had this in the base game too, and I don't think I did anything with that. I guess it's if you're trophy chasing, I mean, here's more stuff for you to do so you can rack up more time in the game. But yeah, I didn't feel a compulsion to do any of that.
There's so much that we've gushed about. A couple little sore points on this. I think I would actually recommend that someone buy the game, the base game, at the lowest price you can possibly find it on sale. Buy the Trunks DLC exclusively, and then just play that. I think that's a great way to experience this game. And then maybe go back and play the base game. I'm looking online right now, and I played it on PS4, and just the Trunks thing, standalone price is $20. It's down at $12. But again, it is part of the Season Pass as well. Kakarot's been on sale pretty substantially lately. I don't know what the lowest price has been, but now that it's 2 years old, it's pretty easy to pick up this game. And the Switch port at this point is out. I don't know if the Trunks DLC, I think it's out on that. It must be by now. So I saw they finally put in the card game that I also haven't touched in this game as well into the Switch version. So this game is pretty widely available. It's on PlayStation 4, it's on Xbox One, it's on PC, it's on Switch now. There is not a next-gen port or enhancement or anything like that, but the PC version runs at 60, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, at least 60. I'm sure there are mods to make it go higher.
Yeah.
I believe there are to go higher, but yeah, otherwise it maxes it out at 60.
Okay, so I mean, if you have the capability, you can play this game somewhere, and Trunks is out for you. I don't know what other kind of like last points I have on it, because I truly enjoyed my time with it, even with those couple sticking points. I think this is probably some of the best Dragon Ball video game content I've played in a long time. I love the gameplay of fighters, but to have some kind of like new and novel narrative experience for Dragon Ball, even if it's not new or even novel, like the words I used aren't accurate to it, because it's still mostly pulling from other things. But all those little additions, the Chi-Chi stuff in particular, like play this Trunks DLC for Chi-Chi. I think that's like an actual statement one can say, and I did just say, and I stand by it.
I think coming back to this, especially for the Trunks stuff, I found that I liked more about this game than I disliked maybe my first time through. And I'm sure there will be pain points, but after I finished it, I did say to myself, I kind of want to go back and play that base game again from the start and play all the way through, because I did have a lot of fun doing this. So I think my mind's been changed over time, but this DLC really kind of shone, especially compared to the first two, which seemed to skimp out on what people wanted, and then this one delivered completely.
Now, Ken, you sunk so much time into this game multiple times already. So even after completing the Trunks stuff, like what did you go off and do? Like, what were you leveling Trunks up for? Were you just trying to get all the special attacks and everything?
So yeah, I did complete most of the special attack tree, but I wanted to do what's it called? The VR training or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In the Bulma's basement. Because I did all the Bonyu stuff in the base game.
Yeah.
Mostly for wiki reasons, to see how far that would go. In this case, I wanted to see it because there were, for some of the upper level challenges where you have to fight like 17 and 18, but they're at higher level, and then you fight Dabra at a higher level and Cell at a higher level. You unlock Dragon Encyclopedia entries, or Z Encyclopedia. So that's what I did. I went to the highest one.
Gotcha.
And to make those an easy experience, especially because Cell, he'll suck you, and it's really frustrating. So I had Trunks really high leveled to do that. So I did some grinding. The encyclopedia entries aren't very exciting.
Nothing worth talking about in there. Okay. Right.
No, not really.
This sounds like pretty highly acclaimed from the three of us here. Recommended that folks check out. Though at this point, again, it came out last July. If you were going to play it, you probably played it. But then again, we didn't all play it right away. And it was only under threat of doing a podcast episode that some of us finished it in time. I think I was the last one to wrap it up, even though it's my damn show. But that's how I roll sometimes.
I am so pleased that you guys liked it as much as you did, because I thought I was going to come in here and be the Kakarot apologist again. So I'm glad that it's pretty unanimous this time.
Heck yeah. You changed my mind on the whole game, Ken, so good job. I think
Yes.
Bandai Namco should cut you a check.
Hey, anytime.
Ken the influencer checks in the mail. Ken, is there anything this is the end of the show. This is another line in the sand. I now proclaim this to be the end of the show. We have already recommended it. Ken, anything you want to plug? Game streams, podcast, art on Twitter?
Yeah, I don't do the podcast as much. That's pretty infrequent. Cough, cough. But yeah, I stream sometimes, twitch.tv/DetectiveX, and I post aggressive fan art on my Twitter, twitter.com/DetectiveX.
How about any wiki articles calling to you? We all kind of took a little bit of a holiday break, and
yeah, I know that the wiki channel is on Discord is not very active anymore, but yeah, I mean, still on my conscience, my wiki conscience is that Frieza soldier entry. I want to get that as fleshed out as possible.
I love that page. There's so many pages I love that I want everyone to read. Trez isn't here. Let's just publish it. Let's make it live.
Surprise.
I pay the bills. I can do that, right?
You might just have to deal with somebody being upset at you, but yeah.
That's okay. Randy, we got a podcast, huh?
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's the name of the show. Me and Doug Gerbaz do a competing Dragon Ball podcast called We Got a Podcast.
It's not a competition. It's all, I joke, it's all in jest.
Of course.
It's really weird for me because I've known you guys for so long, so I'm listening to it. I'm just like, I'm just listening to Randy and Doug. Do.
Well, I think, I for sure got my inspiration to do podcasts from you because, yours was the first show I'd ever listened to podcast wise, but we love the series too, and we wanted to have an excuse to talk to each other more. So we got a podcast, Dragon Ball from A to Z. We're on a hiatus right now because I just needed.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that. So you started the podcast, and you're like, oh, we're gonna review the movies, and then you kind of got through those, and then not even without having to read between the lines, I just listened to you guys on the show, and you're like, oh shit, what do we do now?
Yeah, we didn't expect to go further, but we still have a lot more to do and to cover, and to help make sure that it wasn't we're just on a hiatus and then never come back. We made sure to schedule what we were going to do next, so we've roped in Mary to come in and talk about the Trunks TV special, because that's one of the things we haven't touched yet. So we'll be back in action. I don't know when this show will come out.
Probably this week.
Okay, well then we're recording next Monday, so then the week after that it'll be out. So then we're going to get back into it. I don't know what we'll do more of, but we always enjoy having guests on and whatever they want to talk about. So Ken, of course, if you ever wanted to, we could talk about stuff. Same
Anytime.
for Mike. Sweet. But otherwise, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I know it doesn't exist yet, but I have the entire show recorded. I just need to edit it. I have another podcast coming out. So if you are interested in Revolutionary Girl Utena, just take a look for Revolutionary Podcast Utena, which is me and another friend named Jared. I've seen the show before, he hasn't, and we're just going through, watching it together, and then talking about it in a couple episode chunks, and then, of course, the movie. So at least it's out there. If this comes out, then that means that I have to complete editing that whole show. And So making my own commitments here.
That's for me. I'm going to see what I can do with podcast episodes. I have so many in the planning stages, some of which I've talked about in chat, some of which are just bouncing around in my brain. It's always just a matter of scheduling. This one came together so wonderfully. I am very appreciative of that. I actually have an upcoming guest spot in another podcast that I'll plug, and we'll probably include just directly in the podcast feed too when it's out. But I haven't recorded it yet, and I don't want to jinx it, so wait until that's out, and then you'll know that it's out. We'll be talking about a thing that you'd expect us to cover on this show, and I probably still will at some point, separately from talking about it there, because I have other folks I want to talk about it with. And maybe that's enough of a hint. It's a thing that came out to the very end of last year that is monumentally important to the history of Dragon Ball and Akira Toriyama. Other than that, the website is continuing. The website is always continuing. We got news articles that still go up. We got content things. We got a second part of a Zenpai translation that I keep procrastinating on. It's still my fault. We talked about it like a year ago, and I still don't have it up. But in the meantime, we did put part 1 up. So if you haven't read that, if you're exclusively a podcast listener, you have a lot of stuff you can go check out on the site. It's a 3-part, I wouldn't call it an interview. It's actually a panel in person from 2019. It's just a get together talking about Unity, like the video game programming environment thing. But then it's just a bunch of Japanese developers talking about game development. And so it was a 3-part article that went up in Japanese. And Jose did part 1 already. And Kazuhiko Torishima just drops some knowledge and history bombs throughout this series. It's amazing. So check that out for sure. And then everything else we post on the homepage. Other than that, I would be remiss not to mention the other content Kanzenshuu was posting across the internet. Yes, every Saturday night we still play Mario Kart, so you can check that out on Twitch. And spawned from that have come some minor Dragon Ball conversations. I cut them out and put them up on the Kanzenshuu YouTube page. So if you're missing some just casual Dragon Ball conversation from Kanzenshuu related folks, you can check that out. I am making content on TikTok as well. So
you sound so excited.
Fellow children, please subscribe to Kanzenshuu on TikTok. It's wild. So the most recent thing I put up was me sharing an article I love, a selection of an article from 1996 in America that I think just nails the character of Goku. I've cited it so many times, so I wanted to read it aloud in a video. And I put it up on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Twitter. On Twitter, all the responses are like, man, it's so well written and it really encapsulates Goku as a character. Thank you so much for sharing it, blah, blah, blah. Instagram, radio silence, just lots of likes. TikTok, people genuinely having Goku versus Superman arguments in the comments. Like, okay, I did say the word Superman. I did say the word Superman. That's not what this is actually about, though. So I'm concerned about our TikTok viewership. And what's going on with the children these days.
Well, actually, we should consider Saitama. Would he win against the Goku or Superman?
Thought we had a conversation about this voice last night. And wait, I did tell you to use it throughout the entirety of the episode.
I had to sneak it in.
Yeah. Okay. No, it was good. I appreciate it. Anyway, check out some of those videos. Some of them are dumb little things. Others are I put a little more effort into. It all depends on what I have going on that day or that week. Just little things that I feel like are worth sharing or talking about that require a little less effort than pulling together an entire podcast episode. And two examples so far, I have done like monthly compilations on YouTube. So if you just want to watch them, although for February, there were a couple that I couldn't actually use because they used copyrighted music or something. I didn't want to get notifications on the YouTube channel. So it ended up only being like 2 real clips and then one of a silent television. So maybe follow the actual social channels in addition to the YouTube thing to catch everything there. That all said, www.kanzenshuu.com. That is kanzenshuu.com. That is the home of everything that you are listening to right now. Heath has some stuff planned for the site in the near future. I see a message from him right now. We got something else to talk about to get that wrapped up. I know he's been making some tweaks. I'm excited for that to roll out. We got a lot coming your way in 2022. I think it's going to be a big year for Dragon Ball, big year for us. Obviously, we have a movie next month. Hopefully, we can send Julian over to the theater. I love always having Julian do the release day in Japan podcast episode recordings, coming back from the theater, talking about a new movie. It's an amazing experience. So hopefully we can do that again. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you, everyone. I had a wonderful time. Thank you again to Ken. Thank you again to Randy. You can check them out in the aforementioned places, whether that is reading or listening or watching. We will see you next time here on Kanzenshuu, the podcast.
You did it! You did a show, Mike!
You're back on the wagon?